Here we go. Then we'll have it for future people if they don't get to come. All right, we're going to talk about our quiz. And a lot of vegetable gardening is obviously sun exposure, right? So on what side of the garden would you plant sweet corn? Let's talk about that. Where would that be the best? Because it's tall. Where would you want to put that?
You said the north side, but I had a question about that because you always hear the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. So I'm just confused. Why always the north side? I've always done the same exact thing, but I've never actually known why.
That is a good question, Corey. So basically, you just don't want to put it on the south side of anything because it's going to be so tall. If you put it on the south side of the tomatoes, then the tomatoes wouldn't get their sunlight. So I'm pretty sure that's why you're just being safe by putting it on the north side of anything so that its tallness wouldn't shade anything else out.
But what I'm getting at is if the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, wouldn't it be wouldn't you want to put it on one of those sides? Probably in the morning. The morning sun is the weakest, the late night sun. I just didn't understand why the north versus the south versus the east or west. I understand what the shading point of it is. The sun is pretty high up in there. I don't know.
Maybe the whole point is just in relation to the other plants, not necessarily in terms of it has to be on the north side. It could be on the west side or the east side, but make sure you're never putting it on the south side of other plants that you want to grow. Maybe that's just a relative. I don't know. What do you think, Rosemary?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
My mom's always planted her garden east and, her rows going east and west. I think that way, when the sun travels over the top, that it's getting everything. But if you've got corn on the east side, it would like shade the stuff on the west side as it comes over. But north sounds like a good idea because it's going to get it, from east to west.
Good point. So yeah, I think it's all a relative. But I obviously have seen corn rows and row cropping. It'll go north and south, obviously. You know what I mean? So I don't think it means that you can't put it east to west or.
Well, if you had a small garden,
right.
it would, it would shade your tomato plants.
Right. And lots of times I make my tomato plants vines. So I always put those on the north side of the other plants. So those are my tall plants. Well, they used to be when I grew tomatoes. But so anything that's tall, I think it's just a relative thing. Yeah. But that's a good question, Corey. Man, you're thinking about a lot of things. I showed you that arc. I showed you the sun calc with the arc of the angle of the sun. Did I show you guys that? Okay, cool. Sun calc. All right. That is a good question. All right. So I'm going to close this and see if I can just add. I don't think I can. But basically north side relative to other things. All right, classify the following crops as to cool season or warm season. So let's do cool season first. And let's do it. See if I can highlight things. See if I can. Can I? Let's see if I can highlight yellow as warm season. So we're going to say beans are warm. Is broccoli warm or cool? Cold. And sometimes they even call them down in, someone's calling me. I don't know if it's someone from this class, but let me just see real quick. Okay. Hi, this is Lace. Jackie, I was wondering if it was someone from the class. Do you need a link?
Yeah, we didn't get a link today, so I just used the old one and it worked.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know, Jackie, because Bobby's out and I just didn't know. I'm so sorry. I will email you guys right now. Okay. Thank you. Bye. Sorry, guys.
One from last week works. She's been using the same one since I haven't been getting mine.
Same.
Yeah, and I guess I just didn't. Yes, thank you. Let me do that email. No wonder everyone's not here. They're just like, I can't find a way. Okay. Or you guys all see my calendar? I'll move it. Sorry, it's kind of crazy.
What was that?
My calendar's a little crazy. I didn't mean to be sharing that. Sorry. Thank goodness for having everyone in an Outlook group, so I don't have to go find the emails. Today's class. Okay, let's see if you guys all get it. It just shows when you have protocols, when you have a perturbation. Wow, it's crazy. And even in any farm or garden setting, don't you notice it's always the human element that's the most complicated? Like the animals and plants and the sun, that all works pretty easily. It's the humans that leave the gate open. It's the humans that forget to send email. Okay, so we'll wait for people to, hopefully they get it. Did you guys get my email? Anybody? Okay, cool. Oh, here comes Jackie. Yay.
Are you talking?
No, not yet. Jackie, I wanted to tell you thanks for letting me know that I didn't send that out. So thank you.
That's okay. Not a problem. I just want to make sure I'm connected now.
Yes, you're totally connected and you're not missing anything. Okay, cool. And here comes Katie now. Good. Okay, so we were just talking about our quiz and what side of the garden would you plant sweet corn? And the answer to, in just the relative terms, is the north side, just so it doesn't shade anything else out. But you know, if it's you, it doesn't mean you can't plant things on the north to south, just as long as it's not shading things out. So we said north side, but I can't put it in here right now. Now we're talking about what crops are cool season or warm season. And basically that just means when do they grow the best. Down in Houston or down in the tropic areas, there's, or like, you know, zone 9, they actually call them cold crops, coal, C-O-L-E, cold crops, which I think means cold crops. I think I've looked this up before. Coal is kind of like a French term, I think, that kind of means cauliflower or like cruciferous vegetables. I'm not sure, but I always
Last
thought
night, the instructor mentioned C-O-L-E is for coniferous, whatever it is, and not
Cruciferous.
C-O-L-D.
That's right. That's right. So I used to think it meant cold, and it's actually the type of, that's right, it's cruciferous. So you'll sometimes hear people in the South say coal crops. And that usually means that they're planting in the spring and the fall. So in this, you can have basically 3 different seasons down in the South. You have the fall, which is you can grow greens, really great greens. You can even grow carrots again and radishes. You can do it all again, like that you do in the spring. And then the spring here, you can grow cold crops, which is broccoli, the lettuces, I don't want to tell you everything, but we're going to talk about that. So what grows best and when? So beans are a warm season crop. We're going to just do warm seasons first. We're doing them in yellow. Well, beans. What's broccoli? Broccoli is what?
Oh, wait, beans is both.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
You got fava beans, they said, that comes out. Now, I think they're both, but I could be wrong.
I thought beans really need a lot of heat. Let me look up fava beans. I've never grown fava beans.
I tried and they're weird looking. They're supposed to be good for you.
Let's see. It's best to plant fava beans in the early spring after the last frost has reliably passed. So they do well in cool climates, and grow most reliably in USDA hardiness zones between 3 and 11, but they are not resistant to high heat. So they do sound like they are a cooler bean than green beans. Good point. Wow, good one. Okay, so bean is iffy. It would probably depend on the bean. And broccoli is what? We'll start there. We'll go back to this. Broccoli is a what kind of crop?
Cool.
Yes, cool season. We'll make it green. Okay. Tomatoes, we know, what do you guys think about tomatoes? Warm or cool?
Warm.
Yes, warm. Okay, warm. It's kind of a greenish, but it's yellow. It's supposed to be yellow. Corn is also the same. Warm. Even the farmers can't get into the field until the soil temperature is 50 degrees. So it has to be warmer than 50 degrees. Lettuce can be grown when?
Cool.
Right. That's right. Cool. Is anybody starting lettuce outside too? No.
I have lettuce winter sown and it's coming up.
Awesome. What kind of lettuce do you guys grow?
We've got several varieties of lettuce and greens going.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah, whatever my wife bought, I just planted.
Do you put it inside to start it then, Corey?
Yeah, we do hydroponics. So we have a whole bunch of hydroponics as well as outside, just some seeds for those, but I haven't planted any in the ground or anything.
Not yet. Okay. Nice. And Rosemary does a lot of winter sowing. Does anybody know what winter sowing is? Has anyone tried winter sowing? Jackie, have you tried it?
Hey, I opened up my jugs that I winter sowed, and I had actually some seedlings in there, and I moved them to the ground because I don't want to let them get too hot. So yes, you put them in a container or seed them out on the ground so they can go through their cold cycle.
What did you grow, Jackie?
Flowers, delphiniums, and those kinds of things.
So basically, oh, go ahead.
No, you're on.
Basically you make like a miniature greenhouse, and lots of times people use the old milk jugs so that their sun can get through. Is that what you did, Jackie?
Yes, this is my second year. Last year I didn't have any success at all, but this year I was just tickled to death today when I saw little seedlings in there. So I go, all right.
That's awesome. Good.
Must be due to master gardener training.
Well, you know, I really like winter sowing, and I think it makes it kind of easier for people to start those perennial plants that are, like you said, need that cold stratification. But Rosemary's been doing it. How long have you been doing it now, Rosemary?
This is like my third year to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Jackie, it's
The
fun.
natives are good.
Natives.
Native, if you want to get native plants going, it's good to, because some of the seeds are so tiny that you can go ahead and get those started in the jugs, and you don't have to pick out what's a weed and what's not, because what comes up is what you plant in there.
That's a good point, Rosemary. Rosemary is going to talk to us about her seed library. She works at the Newcastle Library. And in fact, when's your pricking out class?
It is our next class that's coming up this April the 25th.
So, and it's a Google Meet. It's online. You can do it online, right?
Well, it's not, it is not this, it's not Zoom. They do a different way of doing it, but you can watch it virtually.
Mhm.
All you have to do is register for it.
Yeah, I think it's Google. And but so Rosemary will be showing how to prick those seeds out, Jackie, because then you can kind of get little clumps and kind of spread them out so that you have lots of them.
Oh, you mean those that went tumbling out of the container today and I tried not to kill them as they turned upside down in the dirt? Yeah, I get that. The other thing is I'm an OCD, in case anyone didn't pick on that. So I was already out there. There is 3 or 4 weeds that are not tolerated in my yard. And whenever I seed things, I don't always know the leaf structure, and they may be pulled up, then they might not. So anyway, sowing them in the jug keeps them safer than if they're out on the ground for me.
That's right. That's what Rosemary said. That's smart. All right. So yes, doing lettuce in your jugs helps. And also lettuce, even though it starts to bolt, I was just talking to a master gardener who she loves to have lettuce leaves even when it bolts, and she puts it with some bacon grease, even in the summer, even though it's, you know, bolted, it may be a little bitter, but it's delicious. It's like a green at that point. But she, you know, wilts the lettuce. She loves wilted lettuce. She's going to talk about that in our next newsletter. She can't do a lot outside for volunteer work, but I said, you're doing a lot. You should share that in the newsletter, write things, because people want to learn about this kind of stuff. So
Is it because of the bacon or because of the lettuce? Because I'm confused.
he said she likes the lettuce, but I think it's the bacon that helps for sure. Yeah. Don't you think it helps with any? I think bacon's delicious. So
We know it's the bacon.
it's the bacon.
It covers up that bitter taste.
But that's the way with a lot of greens. That's how people eat a lot of greens.
Sure.
All right, so let's look at spinach. Oh man, I didn't mean to do this. What color is spinach? Is it yellow or green? Is it cold or is it cool or warm?
Cold.
Yes.
Actually, I started a lot of spinach by putting it in a damp paper cloth and putting them like in our fridge to actually germinate.
No way. That's
Yeah, because I could never get it to germinate, even in the soil. I've had such trouble with it, but the only time I have, somebody advised me to try it, and we got germination by putting it in the refrigerator. And I was just amazed that it would actually germinate in the refrigerator.
That is crazy. I had no idea.
Then what did you do with it?
We transplanted it into our towers.
In your towers, hydro. Okay.
Yeah, hydro. But I've never had really good success with spinach anywhere. I'm doing something wrong, but I just thought it was fascinating that it actually germinated in the fridge.
That is. So is it hard to get your hydroponics vegetables to germinate? I mean, can you germinate in water? I mean, like,
Yeah, most of them, I just put them straight into the rock wool, the little container things, and then we put them straight into the tower. They advise us to do kind of like what you were talking about, a little mini greenhouse kind of thing, and then transplant them over there, just putting the rock wool into the towers. But anymore, I feel like lazy gardening is the best gardening when you don't have to do as much. So I just put them straight into the tower, and it works.
okay, so they're probably just wanting to have more success, but it does work. I'm looking at what rock wool is. What even is rock wool?
Great question. I don't know.
It looks like it's a mineral wool type of thing. I wonder what it's made out of.
I'm not sure. I just know it breaks down because I take it all and throw it in my compost pile at the end of the year, and it always breaks down really, really quickly and well. So
it says it's a horticultural growing medium made from natural ingredients, including basalt rock and chalk. And then they're melted at 1600 degrees Celsius into a lava, which is blown into a large spinning chamber, which pulls the lava into fibers like cotton candy. So if you've ever been to a volcano, you've probably seen these fibers flying around in the air surrounding the volcano. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's what we use. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Okay. Cauliflower is a lot like broccoli, so that kind of gives you the answer. What is that? Cool or warm?
Cool.
I already did it. Cool. I don't know why eggplant is like this. It's not right. Is eggplant cool or warm?
Warm.
Yes.
Radishes are cool.
Yep, that's right. Here comes Vicky. Vicky's coming in. Radishes are cool. Yes. Anyone growing radishes? Anyone even like radishes? I have so many questions.
Radishes are good in small amounts and the right brand.
Yes. Well, I'm just not going to do it. Peppers, cool or warm? Hey, Vicky, sorry that I didn't send out the email. Bobby's having a fun time with her sister out in Seattle. So.
Oh, no, that's okay. I went to an old, they're all the same length. I just went to an old one.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Vicky. Peppers, warm. Yes. Peas. What about peas?
Cold.
Cold. Yep. And squash is
Warm.
warm. That's right. Good job. Anybody have any questions about any of that? So basically, plants just like to germinate at certain temperatures and grow at certain temperatures. So that's why they're all kind of different. All right. Then they ask, list 4 techniques useful for small plot intensive gardening. Did anybody ever read a long time ago? This is how I started gardening. Square Foot Gardening with Mel Bartholomew.
Absolutely.
Anybody else read Mel Bartholomew's book?
That's what my beds were put in based on square foot gardening,
Yes. Yeah.
4x8s.
I did always 4x4. I did 4x4s, but I started that down in Texas, and that's how we grew all our vegetables. He always suggested that conduit in the back on the north side to grow vines, either cucumbers or tomatoes, whatever, or even kind of sometimes Malabar spinach down in Texas. You could grow that as a vine.
Wow.
It's not really spinach, it's like a vine, but yeah. So I love Mel Bartholomew's book. So what are some techniques for small plot intensive gardening that they suggested in your book? Anybody?
Well, one of them was square foot gardening.
Was it? Okay.
I think so. Some days it's a random guess.
I think they definitely suggest vertical gardening, but I bet it means like maybe just knowing maybe just intensive growing. I'm not sure.
I don't either. Dwarf varieties, I found that. And
Yes. Yeah.
I don't do rows at all. So I know rows are space consumers.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite.
Well, and
Or
some people have to walk within their gardens if they're so big, but if they're small enough, you can reach in. You're right. You don't need a row in there, do you? Yep.
Nope.
Dwarf varieties. What other things could be good for small plot intensive gardening?
Interplanting cultivars that go together. So they said some that can shade out others to plant with taller plants like spinach and lettuce can go underneath of them.
Yes. Someone that I really look up to, Jesse Frost. Have you guys ever heard of him? He's a gardener down in Kentucky, Jesse Frost. He has let me look. I forget. Go ahead.
No, I just know I had him. I saw it yesterday in my notes. Somebody's been talking about it. Might have been you.
Oh, really?
I'm doing soil.
That's right. He
Yeah.
does talk about soil. He has a book called The Living Soil Handbook. Let me see. I'm going to share my screen up here. And he was actually at our small farm conference because he's a farmer that does CSAs, and he does no-till growing. But my point is, in the most recent small farm conference, he talked a lot about interseeding and how he does it. Now it's very management intensive. And he also has a podcast. I don't know if he's still doing the podcast, but it's called No-Till Gardeners Podcast. Does anybody here listen to podcasts? I love podcasts.
Yes.
So let me tell you what it's really called here. And it's something no-till growers. He actually helped a person start a no-till flowers podcast also, but I don't know if he's still running the podcast or someone else is taking it over, but he does a lot of talking to other farmers and growers. The No-Till Market Garden Podcast. That's what it's called. The No-Till Market Garden Podcast. And when our small farm conference videos come out, I'll share those with you guys, because he talked to 2 of the talks, and he shared pictures of his gardens, and it's so amazing how so many plants, especially lettuce that likes to be cool and shaded, can be right underneath your tomatoes. But again, it does take, management to do that, but it also kind of throws off your pests, because they're just like, what's going on here? I can't figure out what I want to eat. So in a way, it helps with that too. So anyways, I'll share
The book
that.
is in the library, or at least in the Annapolis library. I got the book because
Oh.
I think you mentioned it. And the one thing that stood out to me was he had, I think it was called Mulch Tea.
Mulch.
And I remember back tea.
Mhm. Yep.
You make a tea out of this combination of stuff. Because I know back when I was a kid, my mom kept a tea in a 5-gallon bucket I don't know what all she put in it, but whenever you would work with your plants, you just go and dip a little bit of that out and put it on. That works better for me than this composting stuff. So anyway, that was fascinating information in there for me from his book.
That's cool that you shared that your mom did that. That's very trendy. That's like ahead of time, Jackie. What kind of plant or what did she put in there to make that tea? Do you
It's a
remember?
secret, apparently. I don't know. It was her brew.
Got it. Okay.
It worked. It worked. Everything was green and lush.
That's amazing. I'm sorry that you don't know her secret, darn it. But he actually talks about stuff like that. He talks about vermiculture, which is worm growing, which Rosemary has done before also. You can make tea from the vermiculture compost out of that, or their juices. Basically, they make juices a little bit. And but what's amazing is that a little goes a long way. You don't have to do a lot. And Jesse Frost, I think, has talked even about there's a Korean natural farming method. I mean, I don't know if Purdue would ever talk about this, but I'm going to just share it because I'm learning there's more ways to learn than just scientific method. And we have to be authentic to our indigenous neighbors. They don't, just because we don't have proof scientifically to reproduce something doesn't mean it's not true. And so the Korean natural farming method talks a lot about the fungus, the natural fungi that grows, especially in woods. And so that's how I learned about it, was he was talking about it on his podcast. But you basically it's a whole process. You get rice and you take it out into an old growth woods, and it basically catches the fungus, and you take it back and you inoculate your garden. If you want, it just depends on what you're trying to grow, because different vegetables grow with different amounts of mycelium in their soil. So I think that's really cool. And those compost teas and everything, that's old history that sounds like your mom knew about, Jackie. That's really cool.
Sure. Yep.
Thanks for sharing that. Interseeding, just like interplanting, just like Gwen said. What other types of ways can we use some intensive methods?
Wide rows.
Yep, wide rows, so we're not having a lot of paths. Yes. And they also say band planting. What about succession planting? Maybe you don't need a lot of lettuce at once. Maybe just grow like a little bit every week. Do you ever do that, guys? Have some succession planting?
I plant beans and I count the seeds. And I put out 6 and sometimes 8 seeds at a time, no more.
Is that how much? And do you actually can those, Jackie?
That's enough for me to eat through the summer and have it satisfies my need without overloading me and feeling guilty about not eating everything that's growing or storing it.
That's awesome. Do you sometimes freeze or store your green beans, or you just mostly eat them fresh?
I eat them fresh. And what I do then is I think it was around succession planting. And then as they start to produce, then I put another 6 in around them.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Anybody else do succession planting?
Yeah, I always do. And I've gotten okay at it. In terms of, like, I do peas and I do green beans as part of it. And then I'll have 2 or 3 different, I like green beans, it's my favorite anyways.
Yep.
But I learned all my gardening from my father, and that dude, I mean, he does like 3, maybe 4 succession plantings, like over and over. And he keeps just tilling it in and putting more in. I feel like he gets, I don't know, 1,000 pounds of green beans is a mile away. But he is so good about just staying on top of it and everything. So I know it's possible to do even in one row, like 3 or 4 planting after planting after planting, but the succession really helps with that. So they don't just get them all at one time in the middle of July.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Does your dad can them then, Corey, or freeze them?
Yeah, they can. They taught us how to. So we try, and we do a lot of canning and a lot of freezing. So
does he figure out, kind of like how Jackie counts hers? Does he know how much to grow to be able to can a batch? Or like, is he pretty good about not overwhelming each other? You know what I mean? With a big canning job?
no, I think he just, however long his row is, he plants it so that it's full, and then he just cans however many there are and go get more cans. Although last couple of years, there've been a run on lids. You can't even find lids anywhere. It's been a huge problem. So he was complaining about that. You have to buy the whole can and lids. He just wants the lids, but regardless, they eat them all the time. So
That's awesome.
they have more. They have more.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So with green beans a long time ago, they were canned differently. And I'm not saying, I don't know how your dad does it, and I don't need to know, but nowadays we pressure can them. And but USDA, if you guys ever want to know how to can things, I'm not allowed to talk about it too much, but we can look up canning from the USDA. They actually have a free fall blue book, and
Right.
it's amazing. So you can learn so much. It's free right here. I've learned so much there. And I remember learning about pressure canning meat and being like, you can do that. And so
Mhm.
you can pressure can a lot of things, and it's not too hard. And there's a lot of recipes in here and how to just can anything you can get your hands on. So
Yeah, I don't think they did it correctly because they didn't have a prep canner for years. I mean, back in the 90s, did the boiling method where they just boil it for so long, and then I don't know, we survived. So
I know
whatever.
it used to be taught differently, so no stress. I'm not judging them, and I'm sure you're alive. I'm glad, but I know that beans changed. Beans changed. And I don't know if it's because the acidity changed or just the science. I'm not sure, but okay. Succession planting.
Well, some of that old day stuff was a surprise. You never knew what you were going to find when you opened it up.
Yeah. And then another way, since you're doing intensive, what other things can you do? We talked about this kind of before with pest management. We can use covers, so we could mulch, or we could even use like a warming cloche, whatever they're called, or like a tarp. I mean, like a plastic, almost like a little hoop house you can do if you're
Yeah.
doing intensive growing for season extension. Anybody have any questions about those or want to add anything? Okay, Mr. N.O. Plant says he's having trouble getting his carrot seeds to come up through the soil. Could you give him suggestions? What do you think he could be dealing with?
You're planted too deep or there's a crust.
Mhm. Thank you, Vicky. Good questions, very good questions. Maybe put a little bit of mulch, just a little bit. They suggest maybe some vermiculite on top of it, or just a little bit of grass clippings, just to make sure the birds don't come get it. Cover very lightly because they're such little seeds. What's the minimum number of hours of direct sunlight a garden location should receive? Minimum.
6.
6 hours. That's right. That's right. Why is it important to allow the soil to dry somewhat before preparing a seed or transplant bed? And this is what farmers are waiting on to get into the field. They call it waiting for the soil to be fit. What happens if you get in there when it's too wet?
You create a dead pan.
Yes, you can really compact it.
Yeah. It's nasty whenever you do it too soon.
Yes, and you're basically damaging your soil. Yes. Yep. Name 6 crops that would be suitable for a fall harvested crop. What would we be able to get in the fall? We were kind of talking about this with the cold crops sometimes. So what would those be? So they're basically,
I got a little confused. Okay, there's someone talking, I mean to interrupt.
no, you're fine. No, it was just me. Go ahead.
When it said fall harvested, you're gonna harvest pumpkins and stuff like that, but I didn't put them out to do it. That's just when they come in. Versus if I put a second or third succession planting, I can get lettuce and radishes and stuff like that. So I'm not sure which way anyway, there's a variety of stuff you can get in the fall if you do the timing on it.
That's right. That's right. Yes. So you really can't. So when does your pumpkins get ready, Corey? to be harvested?
Whenever it frosts and they die, that's when they're ready, basically. But yes, it's usually around that October, late September time.
So we'll just, I mean, why not just say pumpkins? What else? Sometimes you have tomatoes going if they're still turning, sometimes you even.
They
have
don't taste as good, but
No,
yeah.
They don't because the sun isn't the same, is it? But so I think what they're trying to get to is your cool seasons that you can still have. You can still grow radishes again, usually for second flush. But you have to start it like in August. You know what I mean? You have to start them. We don't usually think like that. We're usually done by the end of when our pumpkins come in. We're not thinking about more vegetables. But have you guys ever grown greens and had them over the winter?
Kale does really well with frost and even snow. You can uncover it and still use it and eat it.
Yes.
I know my mom does the turnips every year for the farmer's market. They love the turnips because that's a cold crop too. And the turnips, she sells the greens as well as the turnips. Everybody loves them at the farmer's market.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Cool.
Swiss chard. I know Swiss chard does well in the fall. Anybody else got one that they like? Okay, we got 6. What's the best method of improving a heavy clay loam? What would you do to improve a heavy clay loam?
Cover crops and adding compost, adding organic material.
Yep. And some people actually make raised beds, but again, that sounds too hard for me. So I'd rather bring in other things. So, but some people work hard and make a raised bed and bring in soil. Yep.
She did make a comment last night that oak leaves are something to be cautious of, but I didn't hear any explanation on that.
That's
And
a
I
good-
have a boatload of oak trees, but I haven't used those leaves. I've been using the maple leaves.
Okay, so what have you noticed about your oak leaves that compared to your maple leaves when you're just looking at them out there?
Whenever the pin oak leaves fall down, they're like little plastic leaves. They don't break up easy. So I don't know if that's what she's talking about.
That's part of it. That's part of it. And also there is a tannin sometimes that maybe just kind of, yeah. But I think it's
Okay.
usually, it's the breakdown. The oak leaves, I've been listening to Doug Tallamy's book, the I can't remember, it's something about oaks, the nature of oaks. And it's amazing how the insects need those oak leaves just to live on the understory. So they don't break down very easily. They do break down a little bit, but they're not going to break down as easily as the maples because of all the lignins. So those lignins, yeah. So that's
They
probably,
actually, whenever they're dropping them, I have to be careful because it's almost like walking on ice.
I bet.
They're slippery.
I bet.
They don't give.
Yes. When is the optimum time to prepare garden soils for planting? Explain your answer. Oh, so I want to share also, you guys already know this. Also, speaking of oak leaves, you wouldn't want to use anything with black walnut mulch or anything like that because of that juglin. It's not the same as oak leaves, but just those juglins don't allow other plants to grow very easily, especially tomatoes. So there you go. So if you're growing tomatoes even close to a black walnut tree in your garden, that's going to cause them to wilt and be weird. So watch where you're planting your tomatoes and sensitive plants. When is the optimum time to prepare garden soils for planting? And explain our answer. When would be the best time to get ready for planting?
The best time for me is when the soil is more than 50 degrees, it's dry, and use crumbling. And as soon as it's ready to stay that way, I want to get going because I want the longest season possible. So it's in spring.
And some people even start that process in the fall, like if they needed to get that area ready, like maybe they do that lasagna gardening we talked about, Jackie,
Oh, yeah.
at the Green Thumb. So if they don't have a garden bed, they may start it in the fall.
Well, that's what's making it a little bit more challenging because now I'm not doing it quite the same way I always did. I did put a blanket of leaves on the beds one year, but that messed it up a little bit. So too much is too much. So anyway, I'm out there looking at it. I go out and look at my beds and say, how you doing? And what do we need to do to get you happy?
How are they doing? How are they doing?
They're not quite awake yet, actually.
Yeah, it's a cool wet spring, isn't it? I think that's normal. I think everyone's the same way. Rosemary, tell about your winter sowing, what they're being like right now.
They're not coming up because the temperature has been so cool.
But whereas last year, how
Last year we had jugs that we had to open the tops. They were so full.
Mhm.
And we did a pricking out class last year as well. And it was really great. And this year, I'm wondering by the 25th of this month, what I'm going to have to prick out other than lettuce. Because lettuce is coming up and I have some chamomile.
but you'll still show and demonstrate. So I think that'll be good, Rosemary.
Yeah. We'll talk about something. We'll talk about other stuff too.
Yeah. How often should a vegetable garden be watered and how much water should be applied? This is pretty much, I think, for almost any plant around here. Make sure they're getting about an inch of water a week, every 7 to 10 days. So a great thing is to get one of those rain gauges, so that you can know what your plants got from the rain. Maybe have it out in the garden, make sure it's kind of right there so the wind doesn't bother it, kind of in a wind-free place as much as possible. Then if you've gotten an inch, you don't have to water it. But if you haven't gotten an inch within 7 to 10 days, you may need to water it. And then you can kind of know how long that takes when you put your sprinkler out or whatever, and you can kind of know how long to do that. Does that make sense? So that's kind of even how hydrangeas are, or a lot of other plants, shrubs. Pretty much most plants in the growing season around here need about an inch of water every 7 to 10 days. I mean, unless you're growing a competition pumpkin, I'm sure that needs way more water than that, but on average. Okay, how often? Okay, does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, does sweet corn demand a larger size planting than most other vegetables? Explain. Oh, maybe this is part of it. Okay. Anybody know about sweet corn?
You have to plant it enough so that it can cross-pollinate. You can't just have a row. That's all I know.
Yes, because it is wind pollinated. You're right. So it needs enough space to get its wind pollination. Maybe that's why, I don't know, the wind usually comes from the west, but I don't know if it matters. Who knows? Needs enough space for the wind to pollinate.
I just figured it's because it's a huge plant. That's why I don't grow them. They take a lot of space because their size alone.
Yep.
They're tall and wide.
I don't grow them because raccoons eat all of them for me. And I also get those corn earworms. So, but I tried. We love sweet corn, but we just go down and get the sweet corn from the people who can grow them better.
There you go.
Yeah. Miss Ima Squash claims that her husband planted their zucchini plants next to their cucumbers, and she is afraid they will cross-pollinate and ruin both crops. What will you advise her? First of all, save their marriage. Save their marriage. What are you going to say?
I thought, what would Corey say? That he raises pumpkins and pollinates stuff, but I don't know. There's
I've
something
had
to
some
do.
weird crosses, that's for sure. I had some weird looking zucchini, spaghetti squash combinations because I planted them too close. They tasted like spaghetti squash, but they look like a zucchini, that's for sure.
But now it's because you planted the seeds later, right? Like it didn't taste weird that season, right?
It didn't taste weird at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think the trick is that the seeds that's in the ground will grow the fruit, and anything they cross-pollinate will create the next generation.
Right. And it
I
doesn't
think
sound
that's the question.
That volunteers.
Yes, that's right. And it doesn't sound like zucchini and cucumbers will cross. They do not cross-pollinate. These two species cannot cross. So
then I thought they didn't cross anyway, so.
Yep,
you
they
know.
don't. They do not. You were right, Jackie. But even if they did, like you said, it wouldn't bother this season. It would bother next season's. And
Yeah, okay,
these
I'm good.
do not cross. If they,
That question stumped us when we were in class. We discussed that question for a long time because we'd have people argue with us over well, mine cross pollinated or, but they don't jump species.
and also, haven't you said something about soft versus hard cucurbits? What is it? There's something about that, Rosemary.
Well, the hard shell gourds they have a white bloom, and the like the ornamental gourds that are the striped ones and the little pumpkins and stuff like that, they have a yellow bloom and they don't cross pollinate with each other. I mean, they do with each other, not from white to yellow
Got it.
bloom.
So white to yellow don't cross, but
No.
yellow, two yellows would. But why doesn't the zucchini,
Yes.
who's got a yellow and what's a cucumber color? What is that?
It's yellow.
Yellow.
But there's two different species. They're just too different okay. Okay.
The other thing it was talking about is zucchini flowers in the morning and they're closed by the afternoon. Now I thought, well, maybe that's another trick because maybe the cucumber only likes the afternoon. I have no clue.
Maybe
This mating.
That may be, but it sounds like they're saying it doesn't cross. So I'll have
Okay.
to find out why. It's a good question. Mr. Hornworm tells you that his tomatoes have a disease that causes a black leathery spot on the bottom of the fruit. He wants to know what he can spray with them. He wants to know what to spray them to prevent the problem from spreading to his other garden plants. What advice can you offer? And this is something you'll find many people just want something to spray, but sometimes it's not that simple. So what would you advise him on this?
And spray with water.
What do you think he is dealing with that bottom that's
It's
becoming
a
muddy?
deficiency in water. It's not being consistently receiving the water it needs. It's blossom end rot.
That's right. So it is blossom end rot. And so it's the consistency of water, just like you said. Very good. And why is it about consistency of water? What is that? What happens, you think?
Well, according to the HO 26-W manual, it says there's a calcium deficiency that's formed by extreme drought.
Yes, extreme drought. Or also, so basically when water isn't coming regularly, and let's say you get a lot of water, it's not allowing the calcium, it kind of washes the calcium away. So it's kind of like if you're just getting lots of water, sometimes it washes the calcium out of the soil in that place and it's not being consistent. And it happens a lot in greenhouses. They have to be extremely consistent in under tunnels because they're not getting the rain. So they have to be very consistent with their watering to keep that blossom end rot. I'm talking too much, so let's go to, because I want Rosemary to talk. Mr. Potato Head complains that his tubers are turning green. What is the cause of this problem and how can it be prevented? Nothing you can spray. What causes potatoes to turn green? Do you guys know?
Isn't it because they're coming out of the ground?
Yes, the sunlight is hitting them. Yes. So just tell them to put some more mulch on there. Yes, that's right. Good job, guys. Okay, that was a lot. Sorry I talked so long, but go ahead, Rosemary. Say when you took the class and what you do.
You mean Master Gardener class?
Yes, please.
Me and my two sisters took the class together. I talked them into it because I was the one mostly interested and they weren't going to let me do it without them. So anyway, we did it in 2017, the end of 2017 and into 18 is we got our Master Gardener degree. So that's how long we've been doing it. And we had a lot of fun with it because everybody got to meet in person. The virtual thing is like really strange to me. I mean, I got up and come to the extension office mainly because I don't have really good internet service where I live in Spiceland, Indiana. So I came here, you set me up I'm not real technical anyway. So anyway, I liked it then, and I'm learning a lot now about how it goes on with the all the technical stuff. A lot of people love it. A lot of my speakers that come to the library and speak, they love that they can do it virtually as well, because that way they don't have to get up and do it, and they can do it quicker and they can get more things done. So anyway, the seed library I kind of inherited when we first joined the Master Gardeners. The person that had this program decided they didn't want to do it anymore, because they wouldn't have gotten a lot of people coming in to Newcastle. It was like too far away. And they said, did anybody want to take over? And I asked them would it entail to do that, because I didn't know anything about doing programs or anything in Master Gardener. So the next Master Gardener meeting where we all met together, I was on the agenda for taking over for the Master Gardener Newcastle Seed Library. So I thought, well, I'll just give it a shot and see what happens. And got a lot of information from the person that had it before me. They had done like 4 programs a year to do, like the spring and the seasons. They just did 4 a year. So anyway, and they'd done the same 4 for the last 2 or 3 years. And I think that's why it wasn't going as well as it did, because when Connie and that's my sister, she lives in Henry County as well. That's where the Newcastle Seed Library is at. We decided to switch up the programs and do something different other than just the same 4. And each year it keeps getting better and better, and we come up with more and more programs to do. And we really learned a lot doing it. And that's what I wanted to do. When I became a Master Gardener, that's what I wanted to do, was learn some stuff. I know a lot of people have specific things that they want to do, like mushrooms or, just a specific thing. I didn't really have a specific thing because I'm interested in all kinds of things. So that way I can present that at the seed library, and we kind of get a feel for what people want to hear and do from our programs that we do. And we've already had this year, we had the winter sowing with the milk jugs, and we did a lot of milk jugs this year with the winter sowing. And you can also do them in those big metal pans that you can get at the Dollar Tree that have the dome over them. You just have to make sure you put holes in the bottom, and you can grow all kinds of lettuces and stuff in there, and they come up really good. I've got those coming up now. But a lot of the perennials and stuff that we winter sown last year, we also did last year we did a cut flower garden. And so we took everything that we winter sown and put in our little garden at the seed library. It's like a 8x12 plot. So we get to do a demonstration garden there every year with something different. And the first year, I think we had a moon garden. And then the next year we had a cut flower garden, and we put all the excess at my sister's house in her garden to collect seeds from later, because a lot of the perennials and things like that don't even have seeds or don't even bloom the first year. So we learned a lot about that. So we'll have blooms this year to replenish the seed library with. And anyway, our pricking out class is next. And then after that, we've got a Master Gardener that's going to do, we're going to have a tea garden in our little 8x12 plot that we have. And we're going to put different plants and herbs and things in there that we can make tea out of. And one of the master gardeners, Janet Ridenauer, is going to be doing that program for us and talking about, and we're going to plant all the little different plants in that garden and label them on what you can make tea and do infusions and with herbs and different things for the tea garden. So it'll be a tea garden this year. And then we've got a really good lineup this year with a lot of people. We even have Lace coming to talk about the vermicomposting at the Newcastle Seed Library. So I'm looking forward to that one. And we've got a rain garden demonstration coming up. They did a rain garden here at the extension office. I don't know if you guys came and looked at the rain garden that they did here, but it's really cool. And I've got a place at my house that I'm going to put in a rain garden as well. If you got any low spots, it's really a good class to learn about on for runoff of your water, and it just keeps it right there where it belongs instead of, you know, like erosion or whatever. And then we're going to have Helen Stussy. Dr. Helen Stussy is going to talk about native plants that are host to butterflies this year. And that is in August. And she did a program for us last year on monarch butterflies. And we even had we did that in August. So we could have monarchs there on display in different stages of their, before they fly away. And she does really good with the butterflies. And then we're going to have a tea party with the teas that we're going to make in our garden, in our demonstration garden. We're going to collect it, dry it, and do what we need to do to have a tea party, and then have, you know, like a tasting and a tea party gathering. And that one is in September. And then our final one for this year is holiday wreaths. I mean, we normally do a floral arrangement program then, and we have she worked in a floral shop, one of our master gardeners that does that and put together floral arrangements. So she's really good at doing that. And we're going to do a fall one for Christmas and Thanksgiving. So it'll be right before Thanksgiving, and then we're going to do 2 wreaths. And usually when we have our programs, whatever we make, we end up doing a drawing and giving them away. People really like that. So that's what was going on this year.
That's awesome, Rosemary. So Rosemary and her sisters, and you basically help plan with the librarian up there, the seed librarian, and I really appreciate all your hard work, Rosemary. Rosemary would love to have a master gardener group over in Henry County, but they don't have one. So it's nice that you guys are representing over there in Henry County, Rosemary.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And they we also voted in that Henry County could be in competition or whatever for the scholarships that we do when we got in. And we did a vote, and Henry County is also involved, can win a scholarship from the Hancock County Master Gardeners if they're they submit a letter or show some interest, and then they pick someone for the scholarship that would most benefit.
Good. And that's the thing. That's what a lot of the money for them from the association goes to, is for students, high school students. And also I think they give money to a college student who is continuing education in horticulture, or I think another type of science. I'm not sure, but it's specific to that scholarship. Thank you so much, Rosemary. Does anybody have any questions for Rosemary? Rosemary, do you mind if I put your email in there if they have any questions for you?
No, I don't mind. We always try to grow a gourd of some kind because I also belong to the Gourd Society. We grow a gourd of some kind in our little garden and incorporate those either in our floral designs or something like that. So always got gourds in the back of my mind somewhere, so.
Yes, I love that you're the Gourd Sisters. So yes, the Gourd Sisters can talk all about gourds. They love them and they make really cool decorative gourds and they paint them. And so anyways,
Art.
yes, a lot of art. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I can't believe the time went by so fast. Again, I'm sorry I didn't send you the links. Thanks for being easygoing and patient with me. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Okay. Thanks so much, Rosemary, for being here. I appreciate it.
Welcome. I've enjoyed it.
Take care of
Thanks.
yourselves, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.